Hi guys, Darth Deuce here, back on the Star Wars 3 3/4 inch figure review. Today something quite old. It is the Asajj Ventress Sith Apprentice figure from like the 2003, 2004 realistic Clone Wars like subline of figures they did. They did like a subline of figures based on the Tartakovsky Clone Wars characters, but made them designed realistically. So you had like Dirge and I think some versions, maybe Obi-Wan, Anakin, etc., and then Ventress here, who were characters that originated from the Tartakovsky series, but I think these designs are specifically based off their appearances from the comic books, specifically, I think Star Wars Republic. So, yeah, I can't remember if I've read those comics or not. I feel like maybe I've read a little bit of them, but not all of them. At some point, I'll have to give them all a read. But yeah, I don't know why, but I kind of went through a hunting down a bunch of Asajj Ventress figures. I got the new Clone Wars, realistic Clone Wars Vintage Collection one, and then there are a few others that are out there that I don't have. I was like, well, take a look on eBay, see if I can find them, and I found them, and I found them for pretty good prices, and I offered lower prices to the seller, and they accepted. So I've got a bunch of Asajj Ventresses now, but that's okay because this is actually a really cool figure, even though it's like over 2 decades old at this point. I think it's still a really solid one. So taking a look at the figure, it's actually really well painted and sculpted in my opinion. The head sculpt is far before any face printing or photoreal, but I actually think they did a really good job here. The paint for the eyes, lips, and eyebrows is actually really clean and looks decently realistic. Doesn't look too cartoony or goofy. I'm, pretty pleased with it, and actually quite impressed with it, to be honest. She's also got these little tattoo things on both sides that she had in this design, even some shading on the face, which I think looks really good. The rest of the outfit looks pretty good as well. She's sporting this plastic cloak with a sculpted hood being down, and then some really nice sculpted detail on the cloak itself. I really like how it looks. It's just a separate piece, so you can just pop the head off because on a ball joint, you can remove that if you want. And you have what's underneath, which I think is a fun little feature. You get two different display options there. You have a lot of pretty decent weathering on the torso there. The gloves look pretty nice, and you've got these brown painted and sculpted wraps. The belt with the pouches and different straps with the buckles. And she's sporting these like actual like lightsaber hilt holsters, which I think is kind of a fun detail you don't usually see. You usually just plug the belt or something. But here there's like, yeah, no, actual like little holsters for them, which I think is super cool. The entire lower robe is just this plastic bit of decently soft plastic. And then you have the legs with these wraps, and then the boots with the sculpted brown straps around them again, which look pretty good, but do hinder articulation, although she doesn't have a ton of articulation to begin with. But I like the different colorings here. Looks pretty nice, and just a really good looking Ventress figure. I said before, I'm pretty impressed with how well this kind of holds up, at least when it comes to sculpt, paint, and detail. It fits in pretty well. In terms of articulation, though, this is the biggest drawback of the figure. It's not great. Not the worst ever, though. You have a ball joint at the head that actually can look up quite a bit, look down just a little. There's pivot and rocker, or not rocker, but rotation. She actually does have hinged and swiveled shoulders, which is nice. If these were just swivels, this figure's articulation would be pretty terrible, but at least with the hinges, you can do some posing with it. So that's nice. You also have swivel cuts at the gloves there, which is also really good to help with the articulation. So you can get some posing for sure. Nothing too crazy. Obviously, it'd be nice to be able to bend the elbows, but it could be way worse. So you can do okay there. There's a swivel cut at the waist. Then you do have swivels at the hips, but they're basically pointless because the legs are sculpted to be in this like action stance, and you have the plastic cloak or skirt or whatever that's going to hinder the articulation anyways. So for all intents and purposes, below the waist, the figure is more or less static, but at least she's sculpted in sort of an already action pose instead of just being standing straight up and down. But yeah, like I said, it still looks really great. In terms of accessories, the robe, the cloak, if you want to count that, and as you can see, she does have her two red-bladed curved lightsabers. The red blades look actually quite nice. They're nice and vibrant. They stand out really nicely. She holds them well. The hilts themselves are sculpted well and have some silver and black paint on them, which is super cool. They do have a couple of features. So first off, you can actually connect them together to make her saber staff configuration. You just plug them together like so. And then there you go. Let me just change her grip here. And then there you go. You have the saber staff configuration if that's something you want to do. That looks pretty cool. Another fun thing, taking them out of her hand, you can actually remove the blades of the from the hilts, which they like to do from time to time back then. There's something pretty cool. One, they insert nice and securely with a nice and securely. They're not super loose in there. They kind of click when you pull them out. They're also not very long pegs, so while you still want to be careful for breaking them, they shouldn't be quite as easy to break. But now you have the unlit hilts. You could display her just with the unlit hilts if you want, but you can actually store those, or I believe you can store them in the holsters. I haven't actually tried it yet. There we go. So there you go. You can store the hilts on her belt there, at her sides and the holsters. I'm not going to say it's the most secure. Well, just shaking around, they're not going to come out, but if you bump them, they might come pop out. But you do have some hilt storage, so that's super cool as well. Whoops. Just get the lightsabers back in our hands here. And let me grab the other lightsaber. There we go. All right. Lastly, we can do some comparisons. Let me go grab the figures for that real quick. All right, with some comparisons, here she is with another figure from sort of that line. This is the Swoop Bike Dirge. And I like how these look together. They fit well together. I like that Dirge is a lot taller. I don't know if I'm gonna get the single carded Dirge they made or not. It's not super expensive, so I might at some point. But yeah, I like those together. Here is the Ventress from the Jedi vs. Sith multi-pack, which I'm going to review next, and is based even more so on the Tartakovsky design right here, of which they share similar engineering but are different. Here she is with the Legacy Collection Ventress and Toll Score 2-pack, or comic pack Ventress, which these figures share some parts with. They have the same head sculpt, same torsos, and the same legs. Different belts, obviously different lower robes. She has got soft goods, and this one has different arms because there's different sculpt, and she has elbow joints. For the longest time, until very recently with the new TVC release, I would have considered this one objectively the best Ventress because of the best articulation and whatnot. But I actually think I like the look of the this single Sith Apprentice look a little better. I like the darker colors more than the browns that are on this one. But I like them both. I like that I have both. They're very cool. And for fun, here she is with the Toll Score from that 2-pack, which I think they look good together. And then here she is with the newer TVC Count Dooku, which I think also fits really well with this figure. I know it doesn't feel like it's over 2 decades old, aside from the articulation, I guess. But yeah, I like how they look. And I haven't opened the new TVC one yet. I'll be doing that comparison in the TVC video. But overall, a really solid Ventress figure. It's I think this might have been the first realistic Ventress they ever made, and I'd honestly say it's still a really solid one. If you're not sold on the new TVC one in terms of look, if you prefer the old Legends kind of Republic Comics look for Ventress, this is still a really solid one to get. It's not super expensive online. I got mine loose, but even mint on card, it's not super expensive. It wouldn't cost you much more, potentially even cheaper than the new one that's on pegs right now. Good accessories, looks great. You know, articulation isn't fantastic, but you can still do some posing with it. So it's not the worst either. And yeah, it's just a solid one to have for the collection if you're looking for a Ventress. Anyways, I'd say that's pretty much it. So thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. May the Force be with you.